you have any questions? The word building part, which we do, is to encourage them to understand letters and sounds in a systematic kind of way. And then there's a lot of focus on the vowels. A, I, O, E, and U in kindergarten, the short vowels. Again, I know I'm repeating myself, but I just feel like I need to say it again. Make sure they are, we're trying to make sure, we want you to make sure that they are being accurate and reading those vowels correctly. Okay? If they see S-A-T and they say sit, that's a sign that we need to do a little bit more work to make sure that A says ah, but I says eh. Okay? I know I'm repeating myself. Now, when you are sitting with your child, so you might not want to go home and be word building with your kids. May or may not be necessary. But I would encourage you, you now have 5 stories that cover most of those short vowels. I would encourage you to have them, not you, them try to read and sound out these words and go through a page, 2 pages, whatever they can handle, and do it relatively frequently, because that's going to help their letters and sounds, it's going to help their vowels, and they're going to start to become more fluent readers. Okay? So as you're reading something like this, we're working on short I here. If you reach a word such as tin, it's so obvious, but tin, tin, fin, pin, fit, etc., with the short I's, those are the ones that you really need them to sit down slowly or quickly, however they can do it, sound that out. Okay? There are going to be some other words thrown in here that they may or may not be able to read. Min is very unfamiliar to them, so as I read this with kids, they had a lot of trouble with min just because nobody knows anybody named Min, not very many people. Said is another one. Her is another one. If they can try it once or twice, then I would probably just give them that word. But move on to the main point of this, which is the short I words and the other short vowel words. Okay? But I encourage you to sit down, listen to them read, help them where necessary, try to get them to do as much of the work as possible. All right, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. Now, if you are really interested in doing word building, please let me know, and I will laminate and make all the letter cards for all 26 letters. And then you can take it home. I'll send it home with your kids. Just let me know before you leave tonight, and I'll make sure we do that. Yes, sir?
Can you do that?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Remind me one more time before we leave, because I'll be talking about a bunch of other things, and I'll probably just want to make sure I wrote it down. All right, so we are on. Bear with me one more time. I apologize for all these changes. Windows. There we go. Okay, so we were about here. A couple more things I want to talk about. Again, word building, short vowels, sound them out. Don't guess. Oh, there's just some people that are asleep. Please don't guess. This is not Jeopardy. You don't have to be right. You have to show me the process that you're learning. And when they guess, it's always wrong. It's almost always wrong. Makes sense in their head, but the point is to read that word. Okay? All right, so now take a look at that chart that we saw a few minutes ago. Not the word building, but the other one with the 30 weeks. I'm just going to mention this. So those are the sound out kinds of words. And most of the words in the English language, you can sound them out. And I know you're not going to believe me, but most of the words in the English language do follow the rules. Not all. You think of English as this crazy language. But most of the typical, regular words, bed, bug, sat, follow the rules. However, there are some extremely important words that do not follow the rules. Okay? And I want you to take a look. I have to keep switching back. At the this. Okay. In addition to the sounding out kind of words that we were just talking about, they also do these high frequency words. These words are so common. You can't read a whole lot of sentences or write a whole lot of sentences if you don't know them. And so gradually they've been learning them. At first they were learning 1 per week, and now they're learning 2 per week. There are 36 of these. Okay? By the end of kindergarten, we want them to be able to sound out words and get the short vowels right. We also want them to know these high frequency words. Most of these words actually break the rules. That means that word building is not going to work. Okay? Word building, following the rules that we've been going over, just isn't going to work. You just have to remember these words as units. Now, I'm telling you this big contradiction. It's a complete contradiction. Yes, ma'am?
Is R one of those high frequency words?
R, well, you know, it depends who you talk to. A-R-E?
Yeah.
It is in the list.
We just had that.
Oh yeah, you just got it. Well, okay, there you go.
Oh, because she has a hard time.
Yeah, they're going to have a hard time. They get really hard, especially you get halfway through kindergarten. You know, you started off with, take a look here. You started off with I, A, and the. You know, most of the kids know this by now, right? It's like, oh, okay, not so bad. Our hardcore curriculum does have an awful lot of high-frequency words in kindergarten. But then you get toward the middle, toward the end, and you're doing things like are, out, who. I mean, come on, who? Give, little, have, that, there, and. But I have to tell you this. They do not go back over them in first grade, in the sense that they don't take a week to go back to we and want, and take another week and go back to out and who. Okay? I wish they did, to be honest, because I think these 36 words are so common, they need to know these words. Okay? And so, as we get past the PSSAs, Ms. Robinson, Ms. Tabor, and I are going to sit down and work on more strategies, because a lot of kids are going to know the earlier ones, some kids will know these, and some of these are just really tricky. They don't see them often enough, and we need to have them reading them, writing them, reading them in sentences, and keep in mind that they completely break the rules. Most of them completely break the rules. Who? That should be waha, I guess. Have should be have. Up actually follows the rules, but there's a whole bunch of them. But, you know, that's just the way the English language is. Most of them you can sound out. There's a few really, really, really important ones you can't sound out. They have to know them. You know, and the first grade teacher will go over them a little bit, but they're not going to go over them systematically week after week after week. They're going to go into harder, high-frequency words, okay? So these words, and you have them now, we expect them, and these words, these letters, we expect them to be able to use to sound out words. Okay. Any questions about high-frequency words? I teach a class at Pitt, and I'm always saying there's this contradiction here. You know, sound it out, sound it out, sound it out, sound it out, but there are these other times you can't sound it out. What are you going to do? You can't change the language. So. All right, so we're going to stay here. So, any questions there? Because I'm going to shift gears for 5 minutes, and then we're going to be done. Okay. Take these books home. Have your children read them. Short A, short I, short O. The last vowel they did was short E, so I gave you 2 of those. I haven't gotten to you yet, so I didn't give you any of those. If you want more, let me know. I've got more where these came from, different stories. All right. So. Okay, so that was all about your child reading to you. Now I want to talk a little bit about you reading to your child. When you are reading to your child, you can pick more complicated, more advanced books because you can read the words. And hopefully you can explore more interesting, more complicated ideas, which is what we need them to do, even in kindergarten. Okay? I know it sounds, you know, kind of high level for kindergarten, but we need them to start thinking about stories in a higher level kind of way. The teachers have been trained in something called text talk, which is a way of reading out loud to the students. Asher, do you do text talk? Does everybody, all my kindergarten friends, do you all do text talk? You have Miss Robinson, Miss Tabor read to you, and then she asks you a lot of questions? Okay. Okay, these are questions that are trying to get them to think about the ideas and to engage in a conversation. Okay? Not surface little ideas, but you know what the stories are really about. So real quickly, some of the research tells us that reading stories to children is so important. Students who have more books in their home are going to be more prepared for reading in school. Some of this, oh wait. Okay. The number of books is a big predictor. So you need books. You need books. The number of books is a big predictor of how well they're going to achieve in reading later on. Okay? It gives you a chance to interact with your child, which I read to my son all the time, and we enjoy it a lot. He's in 2nd grade. If you read at home, you'll be more prepared in school. Some of this may seem obvious, but we should just mention it again. Okay. If you read to at home, you're going to understand what a story really looks like, that there's a plot, that there's characters. It's not just a bunch of random things. That this is typically, you know, the way it works. That there's a setting, there's a where, and there's a when. They'll all start to fit together, and then when they start reading their own, it'll make more sense to them. Okay. This is the thing that I try to emphasize, even in kindergarten. I try to do this with my son. I try to do this when I'm reading with kids here at Max, all the way up to 5th grade, which is the highest grade I work with. when you are reading with your child, you want to ask open-ended, broad kinds of questions. Okay? You don't want to ask narrow questions like, what was the color of somebody's shirt? Now, I had a book. If you bear with me 1 second, I'm gonna. There you go. Again, these are stories you're reading to them, so they can be, the words can be a little bit harder. Not always. This is just one I picked from the library, okay? Open-ended questions. Not what was the color of his shirt, or how many cupcakes did somebody eat. What's going on here? I ask that all the time. What's this all about? What's going on here? Give them a chance to think. They're not going to give you an immediate answer sometimes. Help them a little bit, but give them a chance to work their way through the question. Then they're really thinking. Then they're going to be able to comprehend the story better and better. What's happening at this part of the story? Tell me about Pippi Longstocking. Then they have to do it. Not how old is Pippi Longstocking? 14. If the answer is one word, you can't have a conversation about it. If the answer is sort of a conversation, bigger, more open-ended, you can have a conversation and you can really work through it. What have we learned about so-and-so? The whole point, again, give your child a chance to work through it. So I looked at this very quickly. Mouse, okay, this is the story Wake Me in Spring by James Preller, illustrated by Jeffrey Scherer. Mouse looked out from his hole and said, "It's getting cold." He shivered. Bear scratched his belly and yawned. "Yes," said Bear, "I feel winter in my bones." One other thing, I would encourage you to read it, then show them the pictures. Okay? These pictures, as interesting as they are, can be distracting. So the better thing to do, and this is what the text talk people suggest, read the words, have them listen to the words, then show them the pictures. Okay? So Mouse looked out from his hole and said, "It's getting cold." He shivered. Bear scratched his belly and yawned. "Yes," said Bear, "I feel winter in my bones." Does anybody have an idea what kind of question you might ask at that point? There's no right or wrong answer, but I wouldn't ask, what color is Bear? You know, I wouldn't do that. The kids would love that. Brown, yay! I got it right. We don't want that. Okay? I might ask, what's going on with Mouse and Bear? I have to really think about it. What did they read? If they're not sure, go back and read again. Bear looked at the calendar. "Time for bed," he said. "I'm so tired. I will surely sleep all winter long." And you can show them the picture. Does anybody have any idea what kind of question you might ask? Yes, okay. Is it Riel? Riel?
Brielle.
Riel. I'm so bad with names. It's just embarrassing.
I would say the bear is brown.
The bear is brown. Okay. The bear is brown. But let's think of another question. The bear is brown, but that's it. The bear is brown. If it just ends after one word, 2 words, you haven't really engaged much. Bear looked at the calendar. "Time for bed," he said. "I'm so tired. I will surely sleep all winter long." You might ask, you know, what's going on is always a good one, half the time. What's going on? What's going on in the story? Tell me about the story.
Like, what is winter?
What is winter? Okay, yeah, for a little bit of background. If they don't know, then I would just jump right in there and tell them. If they don't know something, I wouldn't let them struggle through trying to figure it out. If they don't know it, they don't know it. But I might say, what's Bear planning on doing? Okay, that's not real broad, but it's not real narrow.
Sleeping for the whole winter.
Yeah, sleeping all winter. And here's a page I haven't even read yet. Bear yawned and said, "I'm so sleepy, I don't care." Mouse waved his arms. "You will miss sleigh rides in the snow," said Mouse. And then, again, I might ask, what's going on with Bear? What's going on with Mouse? And then you might narrow it after that and say something like, does Mouse want Bear to go to sleep? Tell me why. How do you know that? And if they start saying probably, or I'm thinking, then they are getting away from the story. And when you ask them questions, you need to bring them back to these words that you read to them. I can see it. I can see their eyes go off like this. It happens all the time. Probably because Bear didn't drink enough caffeine. I don't know. But whatever it is, probably because as soon as they do that, they are creating their own story, which is great and it's creative. We want to get them back to this, back to these words. And sometimes you have to say, did I read that? I didn't say that. I didn't read that. Okay? Go back to what I read. Read it again. Okay? You want support for their answer in the story. So this is the kind of reading I'd like you to try with your kids. That essentially covers what I wanted to go over today. What I'd like you to do is, please call me or email me with any questions at all. Nobody ever does. I start to feel like nobody wants to talk to me. I'm starting to get a complex or something. I am more than happy to talk to you. This is what I do. This is what I like. I'm more than happy to talk to you about any of these things. Encourage your children to read some of these. I can get you more. If you want to try the word building, let me know. And then I encourage you to read. I'm sure you're all reading to your children anyway, but to ask those kind of questions that really get them thinking. Not the dead-end kind of questions, but the broader, interesting kind of questions. Okay? No questions? Okay.